Hi everyone, this is your favorite friend Jay or Jaylan Salah as you formerly know her, film critic at Gay Vibes Nation and In Session Film. Today we're back again, the JayDays, with my dearest friend and troublemaker Kristin Batistella, causing troubles everywhere with her opinionated, which we love about her, mind and rants, and actually very thought-provoking essays, if you ask me, like her last piece on why she disdains or she's done with Oscars for good. So let's welcome this beauty today on this very special day because we have a very special episode for you all. Hi, Chris, my darling.
Hello.
She's so demure now, but wait for her until she talks about Guy Pearce. This is my lantern. Very specific. Why? Because the movie we're talking about, you guys, is very bluish. It's like a dream. It's like a piece of art. It's something that she's been nagging me to talk about for so long and watch. And I was like, okay, okay. But then I started watching it and I got swept under the pull of its currents. What is the movie? The movie is Breathe In, starring, of course, our man, Guy Pearce, but also directed by Drake Doremus. We're sorry if we fuck up your name, dude. Also, it has Felicity Jones, believe it or not. So if you like The Brutalist, watch them in Breathe In. And it has some of my favorite actresses too, because I really love Amy Ryan. I really loved her in many of her roles. She was amazing in The Office. She was amazing in Gone Baby Girl, blah, blah, blah. I really liked Mackenzie Davis. There's even Kyle MacLachlan playing an idiot, whom for me will always be Trey, who can't get it up, not, like Twilight, whatever, Twin Peaks and stuff like that. No, I'm sorry. Can't see him that way. So putting all this aside, what is Breathe In about? Breathe In is about, I think, the torment of the artist and living all your life feeling not understood, feeling like something is missing. And when you finally meet that person who understands you, it's the wrong time and honestly the wrong person. I mean, it kind of hit me because I'm going through a semi pseudo midlife crisis because I'm not midlife, bitches. But still, it was like, wow, I feel like, oh my God, burdened by a lot of things. And then this movie comes and finds me at a tough time in my life. So, Chris, come on, tell me, Breathe In. Why Breathe In? What do you think of Breathe In?
It finally got you to dress up all fancy and blue with the feathers in your hair
Yes.
and really fancy. When
All
I
for
saw this a couple
Pierceman.
years after it had come out, I guess. I was waiting for the disc and was like, wow, I did not expect this from this movie at all. And I guess as we'll get into further detail, because Guy Pearce and Drake Doremus also worked later, right after this, for a film called Equals. But this was released right before Iron Man 3. And it's like, this is the better movie. I mean, flat out. I mean, even though Iron Man 3
100%.
is a $1 billion box office movie, it's probably the one Guy Pearce movie that everybody has seen. But it's like this movie is just very even if you're in a good place in your life. I mean, and I guess up until the election, I was in a good place,
Until the
and
election. And then
and
you
then
went down.
2025 happened, and yes, and things have been kind of scary, but it's like, but I've been in a good place, and yet you watch this movie, and it's very bittersweet, and it does like this is the kind of movie that I'm seeking when I say the things that kind of stay with you or make you ask questions about yourself. So I think it's great performances, the great environment, the kind of handheld naturalistic filming. It just all combines for just a beautiful little piece.
There's also, okay, starting by the fancy stuff, this is my mom's. I'm channeling Gigi. My mom's name is Jihan. So I'm channeling Gigi now. So this is not Jay. You know Jay with her bun. So this is not me. And you know that, darling. This is first of all. Second of all, I feel like this film also is about stolen moments in life and the silence, because there are many silent moments. And with Guy Pearce, I mean, I'm sorry, guys, but if you can't see his greatness, what are you even doing on our podcast? Because this man is seriously a chameleon. When you see him here, broken masculinity at its best, a man beaten down by life, by the idea of living the so-called, kind of like the urban dream or the American dream, where he has the house, the family, the car, everything that everyone wishes for. But his artist, his inner artist, is in turmoil because he feels misunderstood, he feels misrepresented, feels very lost and lonely. And then this foreign exchange student girl comes in and wreaks havoc on the whole family. And what strikes me as weird is usually now in my maturity, I watch these movies and feel like, come on, narcissistic bitches hooking up and, like destroying families. What is this? Not this time. I don't know if it's the great writing or the great acting or a mix of both, really well structured characters for a low budget movie like that. So, what do you think that makes this movie shine?
Mm. I guess the inner dynamics, yes, are really excellent because you don't hate any one person. You can understand where everyone is coming from in the piece and like each structure of the family, which is really excellent. Because I mean, t today if something like this were made, it would be very torrid. And as you said, if this is about the silent moments, yet there's this undercurrent with music going through it. So it's like the fact that what music is being played or not played and what's spoken or unspoken. And this is not like even when you read like the log line for it, it says like there's an affair. And it's like it's almost like I guess you could say, well, is it really because they don't have sex? You know, it's more like a what could have been or what was about to happen, or if you start down that kind of path. But we don't blame the exchange student coming in and wrecking everything up. We don't hate wife Amy Ryan. I was really impressed with it because the only thing I had seen her in was The Office, and I said, okay, this is a very serious dramatic role for her. And in some ways she doesn't get a lot to do, but but she's not stupid. She's aware of what's going on. And then you have the daughter that's kind of caught in between who's the same age. So all these things are kind of happening in their life, and it has really great bookends because in the beginning they're getting like their annual like pictures taken and just the family fun. And she's like, I'm turning 18. How about I get a car? And like the kitchen kind of fun stuff and games and everything, how they're like this cool family. But then he's also like in his little room alone, like listening to his old like band tapes or everything. And it's like there's a real, okay, 18, graduation. Like, okay, that's what's going to happen to their daughter's life and what's going to happen to their life now. And then an exchange student comes in. She's not the cause of the problems in their life, but she kind of, I guess, is the catalyst that sort of expedites everything that's happening.
100% I agree. I agree on that. And I also like the idea that you can never hate anybody. And there are some
Mm.
heartbreaking moments. The idea that he is trapped, like the dinner scenes sometimes felt like trappings because you could tell he is not having any kind of fun or any kind of even intellectual or whatever conversation. Like he's not being heard. He doesn't speak. And when he speaks, he's always overspoken. Like someone always speaks over him, usually the wife or the daughter. It's as if he doesn't like exist in this. And then he,
When they're driving, she's driving and he says something and she corrects him and says no. And you're immediately like, "Oh, okay."
this scene was like, exactly. And I was like, what? I felt like this dude is trapped. He's not born for this life. And then comes this girl or this person who is like the angel of music in reverse to him. Like she is, what is the name? Eric, like to his Christine. Like she's appearing in his mirror, luring him. And she understands his silences and she understands his torment. She understands why when he's like feeling beaten down by the idea of his band not being, I think, fulfilled and stuff like that, she looks at him and you could tell from the looks she gets him. And this is where you feel like, okay, I
Mm.
like this movie so much. What is this? How is this
But
even? Yes.
but you've only seen it the one time?
Yes,
See it because
this
I'm not sure how
yesterday.
many times I've seen it at this point. Because it's also the more you watch it, I think there's the more things you see. It's interesting that you bring up like a reverse Phantom of the Opera because I love that moment where he's bringing her trunk to the room and he opens her trunk and she's got sheet music and it was like a spur of the moment thing to have like her last high school semester, it being like in this exchange program. Like a lot of the dialogue and history kind of comes like in bits and pieces, but she's already got like a lot of foreign stickers all over her trunk and she's carrying a copy of Jane Eyre. And then she does get one brief call home, and it's her uncle who has raised her, who was like she was like his music prodigy, has died. So apparently, so you get kind of this. She's already been on some kind of weird whirlwind, and this is where she said she always wanted to come to New York. And is there a bit of transference that now she's projecting onto him? Now he's this music teacher, and she's come to their house, and but then she says like she was playing the piano at like 5 and but now she doesn't want to play the piano anymore and you're kind of like what was actually the relationship with her and her uncle, was going on there, and now all of a sudden she's in this same environment again where it's like yeah, he's the man is who she relates to the most in a when you come into a house with a woman and a teenager who's the same age as you, and the person you relate to in the house the most is the father figure, you're like, that's kind of you're like, oh, that's a little weird,
Daddy issues, baby.
isn't it?
Girl.
So it's like she's got baggage, and then all the different little conversations she does kind of have with the teenage daughter. There was all these different she did have sex with a boy, and then who said who's a slut, and who, this creep dude, is cruising through all the chicks, but then there's also the funny things. At first, like, Amy Ryan seems very clueless. She works in some kind of antique shop with like these cookie jars or something. The house is perfect, this great Victorian steel that she loves, and he's like, what if we go back to the city and I can go back to the symphony? And she's like, well, we talked about this, the finances. And she's like, oh, do you bring this up like every 8 months? And he's like, well, we don't really talk about it. Even if I say it, we don't really talk about it. And she's like, we don't have the money. And so you get this mix of, well, she's kind of being realistic and pragmatic, but he's in some ways, is he also still a child? So even if this movie could have been done so differently in the wrong hands, where it would have been like the steamy shots, maybe similarly to Fish Tank with Fassbender,
That's Bender, yeah,
where
man.
it's from the 15-year-old's point of view, so it's like he's mom's sexy hot boyfriend, and that's how the camera view is. But it's like if you were watching it and it was like some sleazy, creepy, guzzy old beer belly scary dude from the projects, you'd be like, "Girl, run!" So this film is not filmed with like sexy, suave. This is Guy Pearce is so hot in this movie, and of course, this girl in his view or something. That's not how this movie's filmed. And I'm glad that it doesn't take that easy route. That it's the conversations, or as you said, the lack of spokenness is really what carries the kind of drama. And I guess in some ways, maybe nothing happens. It comes close to happening. But it's
Yeah.
like just we all, I guess, maybe have these kind of moments. And you're right, Kyle MacLachlan popping up in the one scene because it's like they're supposed to go to like this well-to-do
The
little
funniest
friends and
shit
neighbor they
ever.
don't even
Yes.
really like. He's like, what are their names again? And they're like such a-holes and everything. And then of course he's immediately like, I hate my wife, the food, he's complaining. He's like, look, you got this hot babe, in your house. Does it ever make you wonder? And it's kind of like, I guess that's what the movie is. 90 minutes of, does this make you wonder?
100%. And I mean, when I look at these, there are some scenes there that I really like. There is a scene where I wrote, Sophie unleashes her music on him when he first tells her, like, sit down and play. And at first, she's like playing normally, like all the other students. And then she goes, I wrote this. Sophie unleashes her music on him, and he's like taken aback. And he's like, wow, this is why I tell you it's like the Phantom of the Opera and River. Because yes, he's been praying for this moment. He was kind of praying for a daughter who was like him, gifted, probably to feel more connection. His daughter was gifted as a swimmer, and that kind of made him a little bit like, and even the daughter senses that he's kind of disappointed that she's not as artsy as he is. So he was praying for a moment like this. So then she comes into his life with her power, with her talent, massive talent, and he kind of feels rejuvenated again to create. What I love also about it is that they kind of show the mother and the daughter as really two like lovely, fun people, and he's the gloom one. So definitely she's the gloom one too. Like if they thought showed her as this sultry, like teenage girl coming to him, seducing him, you'd be like, ugh, boring. But she's just dark and kind of like toned down and boring and rarely speaks. So that's what draws them together. They're like artists burdened by the art, each in their respective realm, and this is why they click together. So it kind of also makes sense. Like those two, like, they're the party poopers. They're gonna suck the energy out of the room. So definitely put them together. What I love about Pierce's performance in this is the subtlety, and he looks weighed down. It's as if his body itself, he morphs his body when you see him as Van Buren in The Brutalist, and when you see him playing villains, and he commands with his kind of like snobbish, in a way, a very, very, it's as if he's looking down at you with his body language and his face. Here, it feels like it all falls down, as if you can see all the wrinkles and all the things that make him hurt. So, what do you think of his performance here, knowing how much you and
Um,
I love him?
excuse me, the bookends when they're taking the pictures in the beginning and everybody's smiling and it's kind of awkward and that naturalistic, some of this was kind of improvised, unscripted, and they're like, oh yeah, so how far is New York? Well, it's about this, and well, have you been to London? That, like, and she doesn't, yes, speak a lot. There's very kind of curt, kind of short, kind of everything is always awkward answers, even though I guess this seems like maybe it's been a couple months window, maybe the beginning of the school year. And, or yeah, he's very quiet when they're awkward at like the pool house or something. And like, so yeah, you see like the little bit of kind of the sunken face in the beginning of the glasses, but then at the end where his glasses are off and you just have this look on his face where it's like, ah, life sucks and I'm stuck here, and this is how it's gonna be, and they don't have a lot of romantic interaction or that many scenes just between him and his wife. And it's that musical connection that she picks up on because in the beginning it was like, oh yes, of course we have a piano and she's going to be in his music class. And then she's like, no, I transferred out of your class. Like day one, she's like, I transferred out of your class. And he's like, well, why? And then he's like, well, you still have to show up until like it's all roster taken care of and everything. And then so yeah, then he puts her on the spot. She plays this awesome stuff and he's like, oh. And then his wife eventually says, well, what is she like on the piano? And he's like, well, she's okay. But then when he's smoking behind her back with like all the musician people when they go to the symphony, all of a sudden when she's talking to like the other like other, cellist person there or something, and they're talking about like, oh, it's like Chopin's like warm-up pieces, and it's a really complex, complicated piece. And like, and again, and the camera isn't overdone with this. The camera is very sits back and everybody's kind of in a crowd. And it's like you just have to pick up like the person's react. And it's like in the middle of this grouping, the wife is just like, hey, wait a second. You told me she was only so-so. And then they're talking about she's playing this, complex like masterpiece or something. So it's like a lot of little looks on the faces. Or like when the daughter just has to be like, no, I don't play anything. Yeah, I'm just a swimmer, And so the camera work and like the natural dialogue is just very kind of as far away as it needs to be or as close as it needs to be. It's not, overdone. There wouldn't like again, I feel like over editing or over styling, it would have to be cut to the wife looking pissy angry, cut to this looking pissy angry. And there is kind of montage at the end, which is really great, where she does kind of realize and she's, checking the trunks and checking the closets and realizes everything and like jars get bashed or when she notices, the beer bottles and the trash can and everything. But then because it's like she has to be under such control and he seems very childish. And they've got the one scene where he's listening to their stuff, and she's like, "Oh, you should preserve these tapes, on digital or something. They're old cassettes." And he's like, "No, listen." And she says, "It's too loud." And he says, "We always said after we had our baby, we'd move back in the city." She says, "We can't afford it." And literally, very specifically, she says, "We talk about this every 8 months." And he says, "I want to move back." And he does this. That person kind of bites his lip in a weird way, and he's sitting down, and she's on his lap and he's looking up at her, biting his lip. And it's this very juvenile look where like he's asking mommy's permission. And she's like, no, we talk about this. And he's like, we never talk about this. And then she's just like, oh, you need to get ready. Like, we need to go for your audition. Or shouldn't you be practicing your music piece or something? And so it's like what they were talking about wasn't resolved at all. It was like it was said, it was hanging there in the air, and like they were kind of embracing, and then she just walks away. And so it's like this even when he's trying to turn off the charm on his own wife, it doesn't work. And then when they do have the argument after he actually does drive the Jeep in the rain, and she's got to take all the kids back and forth or something, or there's a problem with the windshield wipers or something, and she's like, I had to make so many trips, and he's like, but you like driving, and she's like, well, you're such a jerk.
Which is just awful. He doesn't feel her at all. They don't feel each other. This made
And
me
part of
feel,
me was kind of like, how did they end up being a couple in the first place? I feel like maybe they might have been like high school sweethearts. Like
and
maybe
maybe
like the
too.
more I watch it, the more I think because they seem so different. And
And I'll tell you what
like,
else. He leaned into her power as this very, like, okay, he's an artist, so he's always unsure of himself. He's a child. He always needs to depend on someone because art doesn't pay you. So he sees this strong woman who can take care of everything for him and who is, of course, enamored by his artistic vibes. And probably he played for her, and this is what got her into him. So they kind of coupled.
yeah.
This is why it was a very codependent relationship. She needed his
Mhm.
artistic soul, and it was in the beginning, of course, very sexy to her, very seductive.
Mhm.
But now she's used to his whims. So she's like, I don't need this conversation, dude. Grow up. Now,
Mhm.
and in the beginning, of course, he leaned into her power because he needed it. He didn't know how to do shit to his life. He needed someone who got the grip on everything in life because as an artist, he's chaos. He's everywhere. He doesn't know what to do. So it's so
Mhm.
obvious why this relationship was how it was in the beginning and why it's still contained to the end.
Why they're stuck. Yeah,
Why they're
because I
stuck,
guess you could figure,
exactly.
were they in high school? She liked his stuff, but eventually she's like, I need to grow up. And she even, and I guess if you pay enough attention, you can figure out the timing because she says, like, they fell in love, they had a baby, then they got married, then they got the house. Like the order is maybe out of order, but in between, I guess she's going to be 18. They've been married like 16 years, I guess, or something, the time window. But and he says, I'd rather be in the city, the fun, the noise, the action. And she's like, who knows what, people crashing on, their couch, jumping from apartment to apartment with cockroaches, she says, and sirens. So it's like you don't blame her for being the
No,
responsible adult. And again, the writing is very true. And writer, this is the same writer and director. And I guess how much improvising was there involved? The idea that she's not a bitch. You don't hate her. It's like girl did what she had to do. They bought this great house in foreclosure. She's keeping their lives together. And then when he says, yeah, it says I'm a teacher on my tax form. And it's like that's clearly not who he is, not who he wants to be. And he is to the point of saying, we've raised our daughter, we had our life. He said, okay, she's going to be out. What are we going to do with ourselves now? And and the wife is like, no, she's still my baby. She's always going to be my baby. We enriched our lives with a child. We didn't put our lives on hold for it. So it's like they're just at each different directions. And then you have Sophie who's coming in with her own issues, and then there's own teen angst that gets involved too on both sides. And then it's like they think they're going to run away, and this is like, it's not going to work. Even if they would run away, the same
definitely
kind
would
of
leave
thing
each
would
other.
happen
Yes.
again, and they wouldn't survive anything. And like, oh, it seems like a good idea, but then of course real world intervenes, and it's like the way they come back. Like she's sitting there crying, and he comes in carrying his cello and just steps over like all the broken like cookie jar pieces and just goes back upstairs. And then it's like that's it. You know, like
Crushing.
even if you want to change in life, even if you think, you make this kind of connection with somebody, it's just not going to happen. Maybe it's just not meant to be. And it's nobody's fault. I mean, that's the
No,
thing. I guess in the
that's the
movie,
beauty of
oh,
it.
something like, I don't know, Euphorias or something, or these White Lotus type things or something. They would make somebody the villainess or the vixen or who's evil or who's bad or who's getting it saucy or something. And that's not what this is. This is just kind of like that's life.
In real
These
life,
things
rarely
happen.
no one
Everybody
is
goes
bad.
through these
Exactly.
stages.
In real life, no one is bad. Like most of the time, no one is actually bad. It's just wrong timing. It's just people discovering, like using each other as an excuse to do something and then realizing 10 years later, oops, this is not what I was wanting. Like this dude is clearly not meant for domesticity at all. Like, yes, of course, as a selfish artist, he wanted someone to unload himself on and
Mhm.
kind of like teach him how to live life. But you could tell
And it
he
rubs off on their daughter too.
exactly 100%. So it's just
You can tell it in their daughter, like when she likes the boy. Yeah, sorry, but like she likes the boy, but then keys his car. You're just like, girl,
you're like, girl,
you know, like
100%. So
what
it's
the
just
heck? And then like
exactly.
when she starts like hitting Sophie like in the bed and everything, like why are you here? Go away, leave. Like it's like I guess you realize because maybe the adults aren't taking action or they're strapped in their inaction where it's like, but she's 18, emotion, turmoils and everything, where she's the one who can, you know, how do they get so much of the drinking that they drink, the teenagers in this movie? But like, she's the one hitting and asking the questions and lashing out, and then consequences ensue because unfortunately, of course. So it's a movie that sticks with you. It's not one that I can rewatch very often, you know, um, even though I do have the fancy Blu-ray, but like
Where is it? Show
it's not
us.
one.
Show us
No,
the Blu-ray, man.
it's not one that I can like leave in the background either because it's like it even though you think nothing is happening, it forces you to pay attention. Things that are said like when they're arguing, she says, where has your passion been for 17 years? And you're like, oh, okay. Like she
Okay.
finally because she won't curse at him. She just says you're a jerk. Like she doesn't even completely lash out. But it doesn't mean that she's not thinking or feeling the same things either. But it's like, but she enjoys their life and she's upset that he doesn't, and she's not going to change that either. But yet they're just going to stay stuck in whatever this domesticity kind of is, just because, well, that's life, you know?
Exactly. And people don't just walk. It's not like Madame Bovary. It's not like people walk away easily. It doesn't happen like that. It's not that easy to break a home. And this is what you hear like a lot. So it definitely made it sense.
That
And
realism. I mean, just a flat out $1 million for an apartment. She's like, even if we sell everything, we can't afford it. And it's like, well, and
And
people today, I mean, think about that. A lot of people don't get divorced because it's expensive.
100%. And I know a lot of couples who are
Mhm.
like separated but not divorced because they still keep the house together. So it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, it totally makes sense. And also the idea that these two selfish bastards, whom I love, by the way, I sympathize with despite everything, even if they left and ran away, what would they do? How would they live?
Mhm.
They would lash out at each other and she will get bored with him because she is so young. And of course, to her, this is also, I was talking, I think, to my sister about this part. I told her the problem with this couple, with him and Sophie, Keith and Sophie, is to him, she is like hope. She is like the bright thing that came. To her, it's the beginning of life. So it's another daddy. It's another, like weird age gap relationship. Okay.
Yeah, but I know what you mean. How she says, she was a music prodigy. She started playing at like 3 and 5 and did professional gigs at both like 10. And like her mother died, her father couldn't take care of her. That's why her uncle raised her. And again, you're like, what was really their dynamic? And she says, I just don't know who to play the music for anymore. I want to choose to play it for myself. And he says to her, but you've got all the options that you want. He says, you can choose anything. He's like, what you feel is like a burden in life. He's like, is what is your positive thing in life? And like there's the one where they're by like the river reservoir water or something, sitting, talking, just little bits of holding hands, or when they're with that scene when they're at the piano. I mean, it's just where the music is, where she says, I want to play for you. And you're like, but it feels like that would burn out eventually, that's too young, innocent, those wouldn't last. In the same way that the daughter thought she loved the dude and like, ooh, took pictures and thought they had sex, but he just went and told everybody that she was a slut and was worried about chasing like the next chick. And so it's like these moments actually, even though the movie looks very beautiful, it's filmed very nice, and their age is kind of relatively realistic. I mean, in the order of like she doesn't look so much younger than him that it's uncomfortable, but it looks like very beautiful, but you just don't think this is going to last. It's very those nice moments are very fleeting in life. Almost, I guess, as fleeting as the musical piece. Once it's over, it's over.
I like also there is a weird part that I thought was very beautiful for me because I don't know, for some reason it hit home. So the part that I really like, I think when they were by the reservoir, river or stream or whatever, or water, body of water, he tells her, I want you to steal me away. This is what I want you to do. Okay, so there's this beautiful part where he's like, I want you to steal me away. This is what I want you to do. And I was like, okay, because first of all, you might think, okay, you're waiting for this girl to steal you from life. Ha ha ha, what a bitch. But for me, the idea that yes, it could be a man in a situation telling the girl to take him, to snatch him away from his life. It's not even about her seducing him and its power dynamics. No, 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 no. It's a very, very realistic situation where he really feels stuck, very unempowered, very cowardly, if you ask me, very, like also again narcissistic or selfish or whatever. And he's waiting for a young girl to steal him. It's as if he is imagining himself to be the princess and she is the knight. And to me, that felt, of course, very sexy, especially being said by Pierce, but also it felt very real. It felt very fitting of this character and of this situation. So and then I think they went home and they had the piano session, or was it before? Where they play the piano after the rain.
That was before.
Oh,
After that's when they're planning to go away.
that scene was just beautiful,
Then,
man.
but then when there's a car accident in hospital, and then they're sitting and he's asking, and like the wife just kind of, and then he backs up and bursts into tears.
Yes.
And you're like, dude, what did you think? What did you honestly expect was going to happen? Did you think this was going to be a great, wonderful thing? Of course not. You can't just run away from your obligations. Yeah, be a man. You know. Um, so
And that
yeah,
was
it's kind of fun. Again, the
resounding.
difference between Breathe In and Iron Man 3 of him being, much more muscular, the blondness and the fire breathing, fake Mandarin badassy kind of stuff, to being, really kind of the ineffectual male in this. So he says, yeah, at least I'm a music teacher. I'm teaching what I like, and even there is a time where he's with another student who's playing, a very basic melody. And he says, what if we take the notes away and just riff, jazz on the keyboard, like break out a little bit, like he's trying, like you think he's positively impacting the other students in a way. Maybe he is actually a good music teacher, but
Yes.
that's not fulfilling enough to him. He can't see outside of himself, I suppose, and look how positive I'm being to these other students. Like the one girl is like already back from the next semester. She's immediately raising her hand to sit down and play or something. Like he doesn't see the positive in the students, and you see him in the classroom a little bit in the beginning doing that. But then of course as the moments go on, he's got like the doors open and he is sneaking the cigarette out the back, or he is, darting out the door, when he's got the free period off to go spend with Sophie or something. So it's like you could see positive things. He could be content doing both, being a music teacher, doing this. Initially, it's part-time symphony, but then he says, no, if I get the chair, this is what I want to do. He could still be the musician chair and commute the back and forth. I mean, there's definitely other ways to think of this or something, but it's like he's not saying that. He's only being very selfish. And it's a but do we not hate him because it's Guy Pearce? But it's like, but
Not
you
just Guy
understand where
Pearce.
he's coming from.
Exactly. I
I mean, the
hate,
movie makes you wonder, like it's
what
very
if you were in his
bittersweet to me. Like,
place?
did
Exactly.
I
What
miss
if,
out, or what if things happen differently? So it's a very, makes you think.
and what if I have everything that should be in this perfect dream and perfect world, but it's not fulfilling to me? And that's scary. That's so fucking scary. The film puts you in this position. What if you had it all? Everything that you thought should be in the right place. You have the car, you have the house, you have financial stability, your job, your wife's job, a great, beautiful daughter. You are accomplished. Your daughter is accomplished. Your wife is like an entrepreneur or something.
They buy her a car. She's worried about if they sell everything and could they afford living in the city, which is a massive, huge expense, obviously. But yet they do have enough, some kind of extra that they do buy the daughter a car like she wants. I mean, a standard sort of small sedan, but it's like they can afford that, which is a good thing. But then you have this, but he's closing the piano lid, and it's like, that's it. And then when she's trying to glue the cookie jar back together and it's not working, but then it's like, but yet they're doing their annual pictures and it's time to smile,
We're just a
and it's
happy
like, believe
family.
me, we've been doing a lot more and more of that of like 2025. Something is happening. Yeah. We can understand for sure.
Yeah, understand 100%. It's felt like it's a
Mhm.
beautifully painful movie. It's such a melody. It's such a sad melody, and like in time. And I think
Mhm.
it should be watched
I think
more
it keeps
often.
giving. Every time I do watch it, I do see something different. Yeah. I feel like a
100%.
lot. And when I did write about this in the I did like a hidden gems write up when I was doing the Guy Pearce rewatch, because I just especially as I said, compared to Iron Man 3, I feel like nobody has seen this movie. And to me, that's just a darn shame.
It's a shame, and I'm with you on that. Like, I feel like if I ever find a tweet where it's like, what is a film that you wish people had seen more often, this will be like number one on my radar because I really wish everyone would see it.
Yeah, I'm sure. I guess you could go back and look at my Twitter, my Blue Sky, because everybody complaining they couldn't see The Brutalist. I was like, look, Breathe In is free on Tubi right now, man. You want to see them together? Go watch this. Trust me. You don't have to wait for an hour, 2 hours for Felicity. Trust me.
Well,
And I guess example, this was writer and director Drake Doremus, who I guess we can mention equals that they also did after, because I told you, well, they did collaborate again, and the difference between that movie not being as good as this one, but and the director has done other things that I haven't seen, but that Felicity Jones, if anybody stateside knows anything about her, they'd know her from the girl from Rogue One, and this the other Star Wars girl, and people who, still think Guy Pearce hasn't done anything since Memento. And it's again, I guess Hollywood industry just doesn't really know what to do with these kind of people. It's not her fault. She's come from a bad situation. She's clearly questioning herself. And even their daughter says, like, I would never get up and leave and change countries in my last semester.
say it.
Because I mean, the daughter's like this champion swimmer, even though obviously she's clearly having issues in high school, where the boy thinks calls her sluts. But then she also, and he also sets up Sophie, where she says we're going to this group thing to New York, and Lauren, she's like, no, it's fine. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. You do whatever. whatever. And it's again this awkward girl teen talk, not really talking to each other. But then when she gets there, he says, "Oh no, it's just him and her." And of course, wants her to get in the car and everything. And she's like, "No, no, no, I'm not interested." But then he goes and tells everybody, of course. So then even Lauren is like walking past her in the hallway, like, "Slut, I hate you." Like, doesn't get along with her anymore. So it's like clearly high school maybe is not the best right now for her either. But yet it's just like, yeah, she's the champion swimmer. Which college is she going to apply? They mentioned different schools that she's thinking of then. So this, where do you go next? And the Sophie has already turned 18 before she even, and as I said, she's already bounced around other places, clearly already has like this musical prodigy intelligence or something, just, you know, and I guess I understand that high school just not being for you or not, that's, it doesn't reach your potential. But it's like, running off with Guy Pearce and with the symphony, it's like joining the circus is also not going to reach your potential either.
None of that
So it's
ditch,
like you
yes.
meet these people. Each person maybe represents a different dynamic of your life and your relationship that you at some point can understand. I mean, even, me, when I'm like, I like things, you're content. Part of you is like, but they're not. And it's like,
Maybe
what if they
because
were different?
you feel
Mm,
like you contain a lot of energy that is okay. It's not
mm,
about just being, maybe you have a good family, maybe you have a good life, maybe you have, like a good whatever. But sometimes the life that you're living is small for your potential. You know what I mean? Like we're
mm.
brilliant women. I'm
That's the
sorry.
nature of society. So yeah, our
Yes,
society
but
is
as
about the
women,
stimulation.
exactly. We cannot go
Yes.
like, yes, we're two good girls. We were well raised by our parents. We can't go off, like and run away and go to Sahara
Mm.
and then one day end up in Morocco, like smoking pot with cool poets, which is what I wished I would do. I wished I would like abandon all my life behind.
That's the American version or the Egyptian version of just America getting in the car and taking like Route 40 and ending up at the other coast. I'm gonna go from Alexandria to Morocco. See ya.
And just smoke and wear, like kaftans and stuff like that and be pothead all my life and
Mhm.
write poetry surrounded by all these bohemian people. This is what I wanted to
Mhm.
do.
Sure.
So it's about, I think, being too talented for your own good. Like your life is good, but you are talented. So even when you're happy and content and you feel like you have a lot and you have good things, but there's something that irks at you and kind of like scratches at you from inside.
Oh, actually, it might have been something posted by Chris Van Houten, that a professor talking about that our society is built upon wealth and materialism and access and instantaneousness compared to for thousands of years, even to back to primitive, where it was very about, dance and cave painting and music and the satisfaction of ritual and culture and heritage. And that's the difference in our society where, yeah, one is not, poo-poo praised, and having, art being threatened here at this point is the least of our problems that we're having right now, But you think
Exactly.
of these things repeating themselves of like, the Lost Generation. I also recently had rewatched Genius. It was on TV, and it's about the Thomas Wolfe and Fitzgerald and Hemingway all pop up in it and everything. And I actually don't like that material. That whole era of that interwar kind of people where they just felt lost and what did they do with themselves? And they were supposed to be the height of art and fancy and sophisticated and everything. But look, they're all obviously were tormented, crazy, to people who obviously had all their problems, So, and we can't, we're trying to express that through ourselves through art. And I feel like Guy Pearce just picks anything, any movie that has a musical element in it, of course,
Can you tell us
when,
more about the music?
it, well, you part of you is like, well, is he really playing the cello in this? Because you're like, oh, okay, this is an
I
unusual
was gonna ask
instrument that
you,
you know. Mhm.
is it really him? Is he playing the cello?
Well, probably. I mean, no, I guess knowing what we know about him, I'm sure yeah, he probably did take lessons or something or want to learn how to at least hold it properly, make it look good or something, you know, because, yeah, again, a lesser movie would have somebody say, yeah, they play the cello or yeah, they play at the symphony, and we not even see those scenes compared to we see him practicing, we see him playing, and her giving him like the breathing and the rhythm measures and obviously I guess he plays other instruments there. He plays the instruments better than I guess he plays the one. If that's not a saucy kind of meaning. But and in a weird way in a weird but in a weird way the difference with Sophie, it is still almost so innocent. I mean, they only briefly, fleetingly kiss a few times, gentle
But
cheek
he's
touches or little hand touches or a little hand on the shoulder. I mean, I don't even think do they hug? I mean, it's almost very chase kind of innocent.
It's as if
It's
he's
not
reliving
sexual.
his teenage years with her, and that's
Yeah.
so tragic. Like, imagine, dude, do you really need to fulfill your teenage fantasies now? So it's just, oh my God, it's
Yeah.
both pathetic
Yeah.
and also heartbreaking. And you're right, he's
Hmm.
like suggestively touching the instruments even more than Sophie. And I think this makes it like if he was like a creepy guy groping her, kind of like holding her, you would have felt like, oh God. But no, so
Yeah,
everything is kind of like
you feel like you've seen this show played out differently in another way, and it's not as good.
exactly,
Mhm.
exactly. It's Euphoria all over again.
I don't watch it, but I hear it. I know of
You
it,
take
but yeah.
everything, the information, and you feel like even great. I'm glad I didn't watch
Or
this
maybe,
crap.
but yet you're also, they do have chemistry. There is this anticipation. I mean, when they do get caught in the rain and the cars get divvied up and they're home and the power's out and they are sitting at the piano and
Scene.
yeah, it's a very romantic moment. It's a really beautiful scene. You could say it is even erotic. Your mind is already going to what would happen next. Even though nothing happens, the daughter comes home and they're arguing and they're in separate places, but it is still kind of like the fact that both the mother and the daughter have already thoughts gone to the same conclusion, where you're kind of like, what would you be doing home alone in the dark with a girl? Even though it was totally innocent, but it's like, you know what? No, it really wasn't innocent. But it's just the I guess the difference between emotional affair. I mean, but this emotional fracture has been happening for a very long time. And part of it is their attachment through music, but they all obviously have some serious problems. But we all have some serious problems.
And I feel like it's the wife has been gluing it, like she's gluing the cookie jar. Like she's been
She's the
gluing the
keeps
relationship.
everything
Please,
together.
please keep
Yeah.
everything intact. But it's not, honey. One day it will fall and just break, explode in your face. Okay, so
But if she didn't, they wouldn't have made it this far at all. So
you're right. You're
this
right.
was
What?
kind and the at the end when the photographer's like smile and they're all just like, none of them are happy, but there they are. I guess as on the nose as this movie gets is their water symbolism. That they're the rain when they do go swimming at different times, that this
The
water reservoir
water.
is like hanging out. I think that's the only kind of on the nose kind of natural touch symbolism because the movie doesn't really need any of that because it's very just point the camera and let the people act. Mhm.
100%. So, now that we've talked about this movie, there's another amazing movie, or not, directed by Drake Doremus and also has Guy Pearce, but has
Oh,
my favorite actor in the world. Oh my God, I adore him, Nicholas Hoult. I wish I could punch his face. I can't stand him. I don't think he deserves to be a hero or a protagonist or anything in the world. So tell me why equals? Why Pierce? Like
but
why did Pierce make
equals.
equals?
Yeah, that's the follow-up movie they did. And it looks totally drastically different. Guy Pearce does from the beard kind of gray, shaggy to he's got like completely shaved head, clean, and it's Nicholas Hoult and I mean, the difference between. I mean, I like Equals. I mean, it is watchable. I know you said you couldn't get through watching it, because it is
Because of Nicholas Hoult,
dull and
honestly.
it is
Like if it had been
derivative.
another guy,
It's the
maybe.
Equilibrium. Oh, I think Equilibrium is and it's very futuristic. We've seen this before, and it looks good. I mean, it has beautiful locales and visuals and everything. Um, but I feel like we don't get enough of the future society. It's kind of skipped over in the beginning, like, but for some reason they're writing books and literature on like these rocket launches, but there's been some kind of war or decimation, and there's only this one safe place where they're all kind of controlled, and there's like this wild peninsula, so you don't get a lot of like the society of why it is the way it is, and it's not necessarily like going to be an action movie of like why they're breaking out from the system and crumbling the totalitarian regime or anything like that. So in some way, like they just get switched on syndrome when they start having emotional problems, and then they go to like this den, where they die kind of thing. Like it's very simplistic in that way. So the film is very cold, like the kind of places, and I've not been on type of depressant kind of medications or anything. I
Me
did have like
too.
a writer friend who said they put her up on a dose and she couldn't write. It lulled her creativity. She's
That's
like,
why I
stop, I have to get
never
off of it.
I went
And
to
the
multiple
way, but I,
therapists and they
yeah,
all wanted me to take, and I swear they were there. I would like scream to my mom, like, they're taking the talent out of me.
yes, yeah, I've heard
I
that they
knew this would
really kind of
happen because
like
I studied them
lull
in
or,
school.
but
Yes.
like they mellow you out, they kind of tone you
It's as
down.
if, okay, now look at you, crazy Chris, seeing everything in bright colors. You will see the world as gray and you will feel nothing.
Oh.
Like Guy Pearce dies. Okay, great. Like America turns into whatever. Sure, whatever. Honey, the house is
That's the
burning.
thing.
Well,
That's what's frustrating about this movie is because it's almost mirrors the society too well. It's a little too cold. It's a little too at arm's length, too blue or something across it in like the negative kind of blue kind of way. Like it's, I guess some people would find it boring that it goes through the motions. And by the time you get to the end where they say, okay, they're a couple, they're exploring their emotions, they're supposed to be these drugs and these cures that they don't want to take, and maybe they're going to get caught, and they're in like the underground little support group, and then they decide they do want to leave and they are going to help them escape, and then people get kind of caught and then they're forced to have the cure and everything, and then the movie kind of ends really abruptly, and you're kind of like, just when it was getting good, you know is when it kind of ends. So there are
okay.
really great moments between the cast where they are having like up close
What
moments
is Pierce
and they are
doing?
talking.
Like, what is his
He's kind
role?
of it, he's another official, like it's
Please.
Nicholas Holt is just getting this switched on emotion syndrome. He's only stage one. And Guy Pearce is another person in their society who's like a stage two. And he tells him about the support group, kind of talks to him nice. But then they have hiders, people who are undiagnosed. And that's what Kristen Stewart's character is. So she's kind of, fighting this internally herself without like the medications or officially or everything. So then, of course, there's touching, there's romance, they're exploring themselves, and Guy Pearce is who helps them kind of get away. And again, it's very frustrating because I'm more interested in the other people than I am kind of the young couple. It's kind of like big deal. I've seen,
Especially
and a
Nicholas Hoult.
lot of the sci-fi, a lot of these new things, even like Ex Machina, and there's been Companion or something, these other sex robot movies. There was the
Didn't you like Ex Machina?
1990s.
Tell me. Did you
No,
hate it?
it was like
I liked it so much. Why?
would you have sex with the robot? Big deal. But the 1990s, it was on Showtime. Outer Limits TV show actually went like 8 years or something along. Like there's so many like it's supposed to be new, edgy, dystopian sci-fi. Oh, would you have sex with a robot? And part of me is like, I've seen this on an Outer Limits episode. It's like been there, done that already. But like Jackie Weaver is obviously much, much older. And she is also what they say is a hider, this undiagnosed advanced emotions. But she's like one of the doctors at this den. Like it's a nickname for where they basically send all the people to encourage them to kill themselves when with their emotions. And she gives a really great performance, only in a few scenes of just like, sometimes what it takes is just looking in people's eyes. And you're kind of like, I want to know her story. And Guy Pearce says things like, oh, a few years ago, I made a connection with a woman also, and it didn't end well. And you're kind of like, well, wait a second.
Give him to me. I need the
I looked at that more,
story.
and then you do the Jack Weaver saying you don't take risks. You just try and make people's passing kind of easier, but then they are risking themselves to help this young couple. And again, it was like the elder people, I think, didn't get enough time, or where Breathe In was very how much of the improvisation, excuse me, because it's the same writer and director, but the equals, it feels more like a rough draft, first draft. It was like, where was the rest of the story? So, I mean, if you like the cast, I mean, it has nice moments that it is watchable, but it's not the best kind of dystopian emotion lacking sci-fi kind of thing out there. Um,
So what is your
oh,
best dystopian emotional lacking film? Because you don't
that's
even like Ex Machina. Tell me.
probably Equilibrium.
Okay.
Which, again, that's another one that I don't watch very often. And I guess the difference between, yeah, they're going to have the action, katana, kick-ass, break down the regime kind of things in it. I also really do love Logan's Run.
I love Logan's
Similar
Run.
kind of, but they're very hedonistic, but the end of the society going out into the wild kind of thing. But like when Equilibrium comes on TV and it's like there's live streams where I'm like, oh, good, it's the beginning. I can see Sean Bean, but then if it's in like the middle of the movie, I'm kind of like, I can't tune in now because if it's the part with the dog, I'm gonna be so upset. Like this Equals is very, I guess, unless you like the cast, there's not going to be much of an emotional connection. It mirrors it a little too much. And in our society, I guess it's just films are increasingly becoming devoid and superficial and all facade and just numb and desensitizing. And it's like to the point where, people are just trying to go through the motions and act like everything's normal when we're having major catastrophic fascist things happening. So it's this, when you're watching a movie that's kind of like that. And even I will say there's David Selby is in this. We talked about Dark Shadows before. I don't think you got to his part yet. He's my
No,
favorite from Dark Shadows. And David Selby, Quentin Collins on Dark Shadows. So he's an old man in this. He's like their manager who just gives them like warnings. I've been told
I
to
saw
watch
him
you,
as a
or handles
manager.
the meeting.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So I need to watch him
And
in Dark Shadows
but
now.
then he also like disappears from the movie, and you're kind of like, darn, like
All
it
the good
seemed like there
ones.
were be much more interesting things happening in this movie that we just don't get. So I guess on one hand, it doesn't have a lot of repeat value because if you're rewatching it, it's not going to change. You're not going to see more
Hidden
of what you want
gems
to
and
see in
Easter
it.
eggs and stuff. Yes.
So, no. I think when I had all the sci-fi from Guy Pearce together, I think just had it in the middle because that's how it feels, just like a middle of the road kind of sci-fi film. And neither of these movies are very long. I mean, even with the credits, I mean, they might even be under 90 minutes. So the difference between breathing in, kind of coming in for this sort of slice in life vignettes, questions and regrets and, pieces in and pieces out, where equals is probably about the same amount of time. And you're kind of like, this is kind of long. Where is this going to go? Is anything going to happen yet? And then that happens, it's over. Um, so I would definitely take breathe in before over equals for sure.
You keep track of our Pearson of our Pearsoness talking about movies, okay? Because you've heard more podcasts about him talking than me. Did he ever
Oh.
talk about Breathe In? Ever? Because I want to hear his perspective on that
I
film.
don't I don't think so.
That's so
No, and in fact,
sad.
I went back and looked through this again because um there's pictures. If I guess if you go back from like the search, like big Gettys or like the big photo agencies, there's pictures from when they did the festival kind of photo calls. But then like on the videos, there's not a lot of conversations about these. So both of these movies really came and went and just, boop, like I guess lucky they got the funding to be made at all, which I guess is a shame. Um, yeah, because you don't really hear what I hear most. I told you also what I hear most when Guy Pearce mentions equals. He was doing his album at the same time. So, and again, he tends to work with a lot of the same people multiple times. As there was he admits the divorce films, but then, like as I said, I was watching Genius, and it's like just I'm friends with Colin Firth. So if he asked me to go make the movie, I'll go make the movie for 2 scenes. Big deal. So the director probably said, hey, you want to come to Japan and be in this movie? And he's like, well, great, I can work on my music at the same time. And he made a music video, which he on his YouTube and on his website, he's got really detailed notes about the songs, the making of the videos, what he was trying to do in the videos and everything. So that's when he talks about, oh, yeah, I was in Japan filming a movie, but I made my music video kind of thing
They made
instead.
the connection,
Um,
yes.
so in some ways, when I was doing the Guy Pearce career rewatch, some things had a lot of information that you could go back and find print articles or all kinds of videos, festival conferences and interviews and everything. And then and weirdly things that never happens, not just casting rumors or things that fell out, scheduling conflicts, but just entire films that just were announced that disappeared that never got made, where you're like unrealized projects, like damn. But then it's frustrating when sometimes there's just nothing about a movie. It's just there and it disappears and then it just disappears.
100%. I hate that when it happens. And I hate
But
when
Iron Man 3.
exactly. And I
Well,
hate when an artist is not questioned about the most exciting projects
mm,
or even the hidden gems, the things that he should be questioned about.
mm,
And instead, let's talk about the popular stuff so that the people can tune in.
mm,
I don't care, man. I don't give a shit. I want to ask artists about the things that I think was important, even to see their perspective. Did they like, dislike, like regret, whatever. So maybe one day, if this will be manifested and Pierce will not be like, no, I don't want to be on the JayDays with those two women. Maybe I will ask him
no,
this question, girl, and I'll tell you what happens, hopefully.
sure.
Okay, so now you told us
Mm.
about equals, which is amazing from your description, man. I can't believe it.
I
Wow,
mean,
I
I
lost a
make it sound
lot.
better than it is.
I mean, of course, 100%, because now I feel like I want to break it even more. Like I really want to give it like a 1 star rating. This is why I'm gonna watch it till the end and feel like, yeah, suck, you
Did you
suck.
skip around?
Nicholas
I guess
Hoult.
you could skip around a little or
Exactly.
watch it on one and
And
a
watch
half
all the
speed. I
scenes
don't know.
of Nicholas Hoult so that I can curse him correctly and criticize him
Well,
really
I
with
said that to my husband, Nicholas Holt, and he said, "Who is he?" And I said, "Well, Beast in First Class." And he's like,
did
"All
you
I
s-
remember about First Class is like Fassbender, swaggering all around." He's like, "I don't know who the hell this person is." And I'm like, "He was in like a zombie movie, like warm bot." He's like, "That doesn't help." He's like, "I don't know who he is." I guess the movie was there. Maybe they expected it to be some kind of breakout that kids would get this movie. They would relate to the kind of apathetic kind of tone. But I don't think there's, unless you like the cast, I don't think there's a lot to resonate, because the movie's just a little too cool. The difference between okay, Equals was supposed to be a star vehicle. They're even quoted billed equally next to each other, Nicholas Hoult and Kristen Stewart. And you can tell the difference between, okay, not even in non-bias, who are the people that make the movie? Guy Pearce and Jackie Weaver, you know, um,
see?
compared to Breathe In, which you could say is a film that entirely has character actors in it. And it's just so much more dynamic and so much more compelling. Even if you could say the same thing, hey, nothing happens, um, it's just the naturalness, the raw realness of it compared to the Equals is just still too on the nose at what it's trying to do of yes, these are stars and they're, young love. They of course they still know what to do, when they're in like the shower together or something. So, with a lot of up close little filming and hand touching and, you
You.
know, caressing and everything like that. So the difference between, oh, it's an indie piece, but it is a star vehicle. So yeah, you can see, I guess, the difference of what the vein of the two films and which one excels at one and not at the other. Am I making
100%.
sense?
Wow, look at me. Okay, so this movie is because Kristin paired equals because of the Drake Doremus. Thank you very much, sir. We made you famous. Come to my channel. I will interview you to talk about Guy Pearce. So this is the Drake Doremus world with Guy Pearce in it. So I paired it because Breathe In to me was like this tale of the tormented artist, even at different stages of life. Like Sophie is one, and then you have Keith is one. So definitely it kind of captures this essence and it captures it perfectly for someone like me when it picks on these kinds of movies because I am a tormented poet. So now the one that I paired with it is Girl with a Pearl Earring, directed by Peter Weber. And this film, I remember clearly every single incident that I had with it. First of all, my best friend in school, we were so young, she told me, you have to see this movie because it's, starring Scarlett Johansson. And she was like, it girl for our generation in the outs and stuff like that. So we were like enamored by her. And she was like, she looks like an angel. So little me, of course, I'm never going to watch a movie before I read the book. So I brought the book, I bought it, and I read it by Tracy Chevalier. And I really liked the book so much. It made me so immersed in this magical, fictionalized version of, Johannes Vermeer painting, Girl with the Pearl Earring, the beautiful painting. So it's, of course, a fictionalized tale. There's no maid, there's no him and his stupid wife and all their stupid kids. So, and I'm not big on Colin Firth, okay? Because when I was reading, of course, the novel, I imagined the hotter guy. But then I saw, but of course, because my friend told me ScarJo was playing the beautiful maid, I imagined her as this. So the book got me in so much. Then I watched the movie, and honestly, this is early ScarJo. I don't think she's made a lot of like lead roles before. You could tell she's a star. The minute she enters and she's on the screen, something about her, like we talk about match point, the moment she is in the scene, she's oozing energy and aura and whatever. And in this movie, she has no makeup on and she's wearing veils all the time, covering her hair, which to me was very surprising that maids had to cover their hair so that they won't appear, like the masters and the ladies and stuff like that of the time. And I also, when I read about the costume design in this film and this amazing costume designer, Dean Van Stralen, she said that she manipulated the costumes. She didn't make them the way they were at the period. Like it wasn't that period specific, especially for, like the masters and the owners of the houses, for better dramatic, like effect. And she won, I think, like an Academy Award or something like that for the costumes or got nominated. But well deserved because honestly, gorgeous, gorgeous costumes. Everything is beautiful. And they didn't put any makeup on Scarlett Johansson because they wanted her beautiful natural skin to be there, and they wanted her to look pale and I think angelic and holy and stuff like that. And I remembered one of the conversations that we had with our dear friend Zita when she said, "But it's really boring to be the muse." And that struck me because in Breathe In, she wasn't the muse, Sophie, as much as she was also inspired by him in a way to play for someone. Finally, she found this person who would reignite her passion to play again. So she wasn't the muse. Even if he thought she was the muse, to her, he was also the muse because it tells you about a different perspective. But here, she was 100% muse. But I didn't feel bad because I felt the idea of the greedy painter finding a person and a person who there's inequality in power that they can use to paint and to draw and to marvel at. But also, this person is finding a world that they never expected, but also the idea of you meeting someone not from your world and you wouldn't expect them to understand you. Again, there is this artist trapped in a stupid marriage with a terrible mother-in-law, with a woman who kind of like gives birth to six kids, and she's always, of course, having troubles and having, like mental health issues, which you would expect with six kids. Hello. I mean, one is enough. Sorry. So this poor guy cannot connect to anyone, and then he meets this too intelligent for her own good girl who kind of like sees the world differently. And that drew me to this film. So it felt
Mhm.
very poignant and very beautiful to watch. And this is like my second or third time watching it, and I didn't get bored. Like I watched it till the end, which I know
Mhm.
that I will do with Breathe In again. There are movies that feel comforting and to you, like they belong to you in a way.
True. But I think what you're saying, overarching of all of these films, is we don't have muses so much anymore, I don't think.
Yeah.
But what we do
Yes.
have is the audience as the voyeur.
Yeah.
So Girl with the Pearl Wings, like really early aughts. And I'm not sure where it is offhand between the other Boleyn girl. But Scarlett Johansson before that was like the little girl and the horse whisperer. And I think Hollywood was doing it's time for you to be in mature period piece roles. Like, oh, yeah, buttoned up, pushed up kind of costumes and everything. The idea of like, look at this beautiful person. And then, we had Twilight crap with the Kristen Stewart. But there's been times where I've seen her on the red carpet and I have to double take because I don't recognize her when she's got her hair really blonde and styled and sophisticated and beautiful. And I'm like, this is a really beautiful woman. I'm like, why most of the time does she walk around looking like crap? I'm sorry, girl. But
100%.
it's because she chooses to do that.
She
And it's
doesn't want that.
okay,
Exactly.
mad respect, girl. And in Breathe In, again, Felicity Jones is not played up as the beauty in this movie. She's wearing little short, little plain leggings, little t-shirt, little strappy, dirty, like whatever fits in her trunk kind of suitcase. Like she's not this glowing beauty in this movie. Um, and so I guess the difference between each phase of these women and that the audience is the voyeur, that there's certain women where we don't want them to act. We don't want them to have emotions or reactions or thoughts or feelings. They're just meant to stand there and be beautiful. And so the difference between when you get the raw realness on screen versus what their realness in real life versus, yeah, when they're in, 1600, 17th century, costumey kind of pieces, where this was based off of a painting trying to capture something, where again, the painting is unspoken, or the difference between I guess today would be who's the model, who's just meant to stand there and pose. And I think I've said this to you before, Ron, about Guy Pearce. Like, I don't think the still shots do him justice when people take just pictures of him. I think it's an actor in motion. I want to see the expression on his face, So, and I guess some men have that appeal, some don't. I mean, I don't know enough about Nicholas Hoult. Um, Colin Firth, yeah, I guess I do like him in certain things. I like him in The King's Speech. I know a lot of people don't, maybe don't. Um, and their age difference, I think, is a little too much
It is. It is. It
in
is.
the
And
movie.
it's
That's like, oh, yeah.
so what I love
Anyway,
about what I love about this girl with the pearl earring too is
or
the
the
idea that
parlor.
they didn't make it sexual. They didn't like have sex or whatever because that would have been first of all expected, like and very gross because she's the maid and it's that time 17th century where they used people as if they owned them and stuff like that, blah blah blah. But what I liked is the idea that they also made it kind of platonic in a way, kind of made it like more in the artistic
Hmm.
vibe, the idea of the muse and the inspired artist stuff. But again, I feel like it was all about the act of creation itself, the act of creation and how they manifested that. And again, the idea that you can connect to a person, the only person that you meet, and you meet also again at the wrong time, wrong place, like someone working for someone, and what is the order, what is the hierarchy, and the power play
Mhm.
that plays into it. And again, it feels like he is trapped into this marriage, but his mother-in-law is very important in his life. She's also
Right. Your
kind of like,
patron.
exactly.
The difference between who's the muse to the artist, but who's the patron.
And she
Mhm.
is kind of like, without her, he wouldn't know how to handle his big, massive
Mhm.
family. So, of course, don't be a bitch and suck it up to your mother-in-law. So, it's again, you don't see them as these. Of course, the one you see is as a victim is the maid, because this is a girl born into poverty, thrown into a life of hard labor. All she's probably gonna do is marry another poor bastard and die, probably in childbirth. So, you can see her life is sad. And of course, you wouldn't go as far as saying, but at least she's the painting. I don't give a shit. The idea that the creation itself is what attracts me. The idea that you can take something and it inspires you after years of drought. And this something is a person, which is even more delicious. So that's the idea that I really like, the idea of
In
the
a way,
discoveries.
the action of the painting itself can be very intimate because you are looking and
And you,
sculpting, drawing,
and you're telling the
aligning each
person,
thing, all without touch. Yeah.
and you are telling the person, it's as if it's a very submissive, like dominant relationship.
Oh, me
Like,
like one of your French girls.
exactly. That was like the highlight of my life.
Sorry.
So it's like, don't talk, do this, bite your lip, like move like that. So it's very erotic in a like it doesn't have to be like a physical way. It's even better because it's kind of like kinky. It's like you're ordering someone, but you're not consummating that idea of, like power. So I kind of liked it, and I felt like it was a great pair with Breathe In.
I was
So
gonna say that's a painting. This was music. So
it's just art. If there was something about a poem or two crazy poets, I would have put it in. But if it
that's the
did to me,
difference. I'm sorry,
oh,
between equals and equilibrium, because equals is so devoid of stuff. There's no moments where they're experiencing music compared to equilibrium, where they're finding the stash of like art and rugs and paintings and records, and they're just moved by the wonderful possibilities of human creation that we've just lost somewhere along the way, unfortunately.
I
Sorry.
agree, girl, I agree. And I feel like not everything like that works for me. Like there are movies that I like in your face. Like it's a movie about, like an artist creating something or a writer and the woman he meets and changes his life. And again, I hate the idea that it's always the men, but what about the women who meet men or women?
I guess next time maybe we will have to talk about the film Genius. That
Yes,
the Fassbender was supposed to be in it and then he wasn't. So it's Colin Firth and Jude Law, and Nicole Kidman is playing the Thomas Wolfe's muse, an older woman again who, yeah, he liched off her money while he, spent years making
fuck.
these, great, huge, massive novels. But
Yes,
again, it's a movie to me that again is also a little flat. It's supposed to be, yeah, jazz and edgy and exciting and
but
a
it
period
falls short
piece.
of your
But
expectation.
yeah, it's kind of like, I mean, well, I don't, as I said, I don't love that kind of literature anyway. But again, yeah, it doesn't get so far into the writer, into the freneticness of it. I mean, there's some good montages, but it just seems over long, going through the motions of being a period piece biopic of this untold story that we're not supposed to know about, but we really do, kind of thing. So, um,
100%. I would watch
it's one that
that and
it's,
talk
yeah,
about
how
it
many
with you.
times can you watch it? Yeah.
I would want to talk about it with you. Seriously.
With other writerly kind of movies, I suppose.
Anything that just
And
maybe we can
again,
talk
with
the
that
piano,
story of
the
like,
Jane Campion film. I
oh,
really need to talk about this one.
what's the
The
editor?
end.
Max Perkins is the name of the editor. Jude Law is playing Thomas Wolfe. But then also, yeah, Dominic West has like one scene literally as Ernest Hemingway. Guy Pearce has two or three scenes as sort of near the end of his life at Scott Fitzgerald. And
Whoa.
I don't like them as writers. And Vanessa Kirby, I think, has one scene as like a kind of already down crazy Zelda. And I'm kind of like, again, it's like, why aren't we seeing them? If he's the editor of those writers also, why aren't we seeing them? Why are we seeing, Jude Law being like, yeah, jazz, woo, you know, kind of like you're kind of like, maybe this wasn't the point of the movie. What part of the movie are you trying to tell? Why isn't the movie about the Elaine, his muse, who was like her own kind of costume designer, writer, New York person in her own life. Like, okay, we could have made this a Nicole Kidman vehicle.
Why wouldn't we? Exactly. And I feel like I really need to see more movies where the woman is actually using someone as a muse for inspiration. So I wish I could look for that. Maybe the piano for me, although the piano is Jane Campion is
Or
one
Zeta
movie.
loves Harvey Keitel.
I adore Harvey Keitel so. Wait, Guy Pearce loves him?
No, Zeta.
Zeta loves Harvey Keitel. Whoa. Like I always thought that Zeta
He's her
loved
Sean Bean.
Seriously, but that movie is magical, man. Everything about this movie, I think, gets it also right again, because I really want to talk about this movie a lot. So maybe we can have like any episode where we talk about
Every
writers.
time we talk, more
Always,
things
always we
end up coming.
generate more ideas. I feel like, yes, definitely. Okay, so final thoughts, man. Tell me, what is next for you, Kristin?
We were both part of the Revisionist Almanac Women's History Month collaboration. That was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yes. And I was like doing it
And
like a jazz.
also
Seriously, I
Morgan.
improved a lot. Like, oh yeah, I think I was like improving
Well,
shit. I
yeah,
was like,
who's your greatest woman? I'm like Elvira. Yeah. All right.
yes.
Hey, why not? Morgan from the Female Film Gaze was also with us for that, and I'll be doing an appearance. Actually, again talking about a different Guy Pearce movie, Hate Ship, Love Ship, um, s- on the Female Gaze podcast. So a couple other little appearances
That's
happening.
a great podcast, man. And we have like our Amy's costumes episode
Oh yeah,
tomorrow.
yeah. We instead of, you waver through being, wanting to be serious and a provocative, like heavy hitting kind of film critic to, we have a women's podcast. Let's just talk about costumes. We'll
Talk
have a
about
good time
fabric
talking
and
about
stuff
some,
like
some
that.
costumes, some period pieces,
And
you
then
know.
we're gonna go dark shit again. Don't worry about it, baby. We're gonna
Well,
go.
Shakespeare.
Yes, yes, yes.
I did catch a couple of the Mirror episodes of Star Trek when they were looking up the other universe, and they're like, I looked at the literature. Shakespeare is just equally grim in both. So yeah, we'll deep dive into some Shakespeare.
Yes. Well, Kristen, that was a great episode. Thank you very much for coming on the J Days as usual.
Thank you.